Here we are doing home daily Bible readings. So now we are at Monday, April 6th, leading up to Easter. Our lesson comes from Mark chapter 16, verses 1 through 8. You'll find that in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, it's one of the times that they all have the same recording about what's going on at this time. So we're leading up to Easter. We're going to be out of Mark. I'm going to read those scriptures to you. And when the Sabbath was past, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome had brought sweet spices that they might come and anoint him. And very early in the morning, the first day of the week, they came to the sepulchre, that means grave, at the rising of the sun. And they said among themselves, "Who shall roll away the stone from the door of the sepulchre?" And when they looked, they saw that the stone was rolled away, for it was very great. And entering into the sepulchre, they saw a young man sitting on the right side, clothed in a long white garment, and they were affrighted. And he said unto them, "Be not afraid. Ye seek Jesus of Nazareth, which was crucified. He is risen. He is not here." And then it says, "Behold, the place where they laid him. But go your way, tell his disciples and Peter that goeth before you into Galilee. There you shall see him, as he said unto you." And they went out quickly and fled from the sepulchre, for they trembled and were amazed. Neither said they anything to any man, for they were afraid. So when we get into this particular scripture, now we're talking about a lot of things. We're talking about proof of the resurrection, proof that Jesus wasn't here anymore. But in order to get to this proof, you have to go back and figure out why they placed him in the tomb, and now after the first day of the week they are going back to the tomb to anoint him with spices, which was normally done on the first, right before they put him in to the grave. Well, the interesting thing that happened with Jesus being on the cross, and the interesting thing that happened with Jesus altogether, was that he was crucified and they had until sundown to take him off the cross and put him in the grave, because they were having 3 Sabbaths in a row. These Sabbaths, one of them was the Feast of Fruits, and one of them was the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which Jesus had already done. And you say, well, how can you have the Feast of Unleavened Bread and then Jesus had already done that, and they're still having the Feast of Unleavened Bread? Well, the Feast of Unleavened Bread lasted more than one day, and they were at the end of that. They were coming to a close. They were also coming up to Passover. Passover is one of the things in Jewish tradition where it started when Moses was leading the children of Israel out of Egypt. And when he led them out of Egypt, the only way that the last plague, the 10th plague, that their children, their firstborn child, would stay alive is if they would have blood put on the doorpost, and then the death angel would pass over them. And so they were celebrating that. So you had the 3 Sabbaths in a row, and you had the fact that Jesus had to be hurriedly put into a grave, in this case a sepulcher, right before he was, right after he was crucified. So now you have the women coming. They are coming with spices. It's the first day of the week. They are coming to mummify him, or put all the spices over him, so that they could, so that he wouldn't smell so bad, because dead things stink. Well, when they got there, it's really early in the morning. It's the first day of the week, and they are talking among themselves, who's going to roll away the stone? So now you got to look at the fact that the soldiers were put there. When you look at some of the other gospels, the soldiers were put there to guard the tomb, and they had rolled a heavy, heavy stone. It took a lot of men to roll this stone in front of the tomb so that nobody could come and steal the body of Jesus. So many proofs and much evidence is going on here. When they did this, the ladies were talking among themselves, and the ladies said, who's going to roll away this stone? Who is going to, we can't do it ourselves. And so when they looked, the stone was already gone. The stone was rolled away. It was an open sepulcher now. The guards were as dead men because the angels had come down, and the guards were just sitting there as dead men. They look into the tomb, and there is a man or an angel sitting in the tomb. And as they look at this man, this angel says to them, who are you looking for? Jesus of Nazareth? He is risen like he said. So now he gives them some proof to let them know to go back to what Jesus said and remember his words. This is why we have to know the word, so we can go back to the word in our time of distress, or in our time of trouble, or in our time of just going to adore God. So he says, you seek Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He is risen. He is not here. Behold the place where they laid him. So he tells them, look at where he was laid. He's not here. He's gone. Now he gives them a mission. The mission is to go and tell the disciples, and Peter, who's also a disciple, go and tell them to meet the Lord in Galilee. There you shall see him as he said. The ladies almost ran trying to get away. And they said, they're going quickly. They're going to find Peter and the disciples, because they too were afraid and in awe of what they had just witnessed. Okay? So they said, and neither said there anything to any man. So they weren't going and telling the gardener. They weren't going and telling other people that were at different tombs. They weren't. Why? Because they were afraid. And that's that home daily Bible reading coming out of the book of Mark, chapter 16, verses 1 through 8.